Today we are discussing a significant internal rift within Reform UK. Welcome to Riks Europe, Christopher Howarth, author and former parliamentary candidate for the Conservative Party and researcher in the UK Parliament for the European Research Group.
Well, thank you very much for having me. So I apologise, there's some protesting farmers outside the Parliament, which you might hear.
Well, just as we speak of Reform UK and Nigel Farage, could you tell us about this public fallout, which mostly has been highlighted between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe? Of course, Nigel Farage is also, there's a lot of critique towards him lately in terms of if he's keeping with the policies of Reform UK or if he's more of a sort of Tory at heart. And could you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, the Reform UK party is doing very well in the UK opinion polls at the moment, and some polls they're coming first. So inevitably people are going to look at them more closely than when they were sort of a small party with little chance of winning a general election. So at the moment, well, they used to have 5 MPs having done reasonably well in the last election, but not sort of breaking through. And Rupert Lowe was one of the 5. So losing one of their 5 MPs is significant because the numbers were so small. So why did Rupert Lowe leave or be pushed out as he saw it? Well, it probably comes down to a mixture of sort of personality. There are 2 big personalities, well, 3 big personalities, at least in the Reform Party, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, and obviously the 2 of them seem to have clashed. And secondly, maybe there was a question of policy. There are some hints that there was a disagreement about the policy of migration, particularly, that some people within Reform felt uncomfortable with some of the language that Rupert Lowe had come out with. Maybe not necessarily the policies, but the sort of the language. And say, for instance, on talking about the deportation of people who are illegally in the country. Everyone supports enforcing the law, but there's the language around that apparently was something that was made the leadership uncomfortable. And so I guess after a number of these incidents, it seems to have come to a head and a personality clash, and which led to Rupert Lowe leaving the party.
I understand also that Rupert Lowe has accused Nigel Farage of silencing him on the grooming gang issue. Could you tell us more about this?
Yes, I mean, this has sort of played out in a series of quite extraordinary tweets from Rupert Lowe. Whenever the Reform Party tries to explain why they've thrown him out, about 5 minutes later, Rupert Lowe comes back with a rejoinder to it, sort of explaining his side of the story. So I mean, it's very difficult to tell exactly where the truth lies in this. But what it seems to be is Rupert Lowe is a very active member of Parliament and has asked lots and lots of questions and has come up with a lot of information which he's done very well to feed into the media, and it's helped the Reform Party a lot. In the process, he's become quite a high profile on the question of the awful situation regarding grooming gangs, which he's been quite outspoken on. I think Nigel Farage probably feels slightly sore about that because he had raised the issue many years ago and had done over the period. It suddenly became a big issue, partly due to the intervention of Elon Musk, who picked up on the issue and propelled it into the mainstream. And Elon Musk picked up on Rupert Lowe's work and retweeted Rupert Lowe's work, which got him millions of views for his tweets, which maybe set the 2 of them on a trajectory of sort of who's the most important in the Reform Party.
I understand that a lot of the critique towards Nigel Farage also is that people think that he's softened on certain policies where, for example, I guess Rupert Lowe is showing more sort of strength, the policies that Reform UK are known for.
Yes, I think maybe on Twitter, within maybe what you might describe as the right wing of the Reform Party, there seems to be some sort of complaint, whether fairly or unfairly, that the pushing out of Rupert Lowe, as he sees it, may have been the result of the party wanting to go more to the centre and dropping some of these more these sort of more reform type issues. So Rupert Lowe had quite a clear line on deporting people who were illegally in the country. Nigel Farage, in an interview, had pointed out that this was logistically very difficult and probably politically very difficult, at which point some of the Reform Party people decided that Farage had gone slightly weak on the topic, probably unfairly, and that some of these complaints seem to have centred on the new party chairman of Reform, Youssef, who seems to be unpopular amongst some in the party, probably unfairly. But some of these sort of personality issues seem to be playing out with with Rupert Lowe outside the party now, can say what he likes and has his own following.
What impact could this public fallout between Nigel Farage and Rupert Lowe have on Reform UK's credibility?
Well, going forwards, there's a sort of a strategic issue that Reform needs to understand, that having been a small party, they're now leading in some of the opinion polls, and people are looking at them as, are they a credible alternative government? And these are legitimate questions. Now they're leading in the opinion polls. So, not being a presidential system, to be a credible alternative government, you need more than one person. You need a sort of a shadow government, sort of people who have different responsibilities: transport, health, education, people who can speak sensibly on a wide range of topics. So at the moment, of course, Reform is very small. They had 5 MPs and now they've got 4. So they need to widen this to a wider group of people to look like a credible alternative government. So the problem for Reform is, rather than going from 5 to 12, they've gone from 5 to 4, which is the wrong direction. So they can recover from losing Rupert Lowe, and Rupert Lowe wasn't the only talented person that would support Reform, but it was going in the wrong direction. So I think they probably realise this, but going forwards, they need to attract more people and who can speak on topics, and the leadership in our system, it needs to be more of a chairman chairing a team of talented people more than a presidential system. So that's sort of the strategic sort of challenge going forward. So I'm sure they're aware of that, but they need to do some work to sort of broaden and bring in more talent, and sort of, while losing Rupert Lowe is not an existential problem, it does sort of point to what could become a problem if they don't sort of bring more people in.
But I understand they're still doing very well in the polls, in the opinion polls.
Yes. I mean, they've been leading in various polls. I mean, at the last election, they did reasonably well, and since then, the Conservative Party, which was the governing party, has not improved, and the Labour Party, which won the last election, has become very unpopular. So effectively, at the moment, you have 3 parties: Reform, the Conservatives, and the Labour Party, all in the mid-20s in the opinion polls. So we have a sort of a three-way split, whereas normally we have 2 main parties. So the Reform is a credible party that could win the next election as much as the other 2. Hence, there being more scrutiny. Journalists are looking at it more closely because it's got closer to power.
And Nigel Farage has done well in popularity polls, I understand. Him having such a strong stance on not allowing Lowe back into the party, are people seeing that as a strong leadership, or interpreting it as a sort of a authoritarian control within the party?
Yeah. Well, Nigel Farage is obviously their main asset in the Reform Party. I mean, most politicians overestimate how popular they are and how well known they are in the country, and even in the main parties, probably the recognition, if you go out of Westminster into the main country, probably most people haven't heard of most politicians. So. But in the Reform Party, Nigel Farage, he is a household name, and he is sort of known. So he is the main asset of the party. And Rupert Lowe, although he was well known within Reform circles, he probably wasn't a household name, sort of. But going forwards, they do need to broaden it, to make it look as if, and to have indeed a sort of a team that could credibly run government departments and take over government if they wish to be seen as a credible force to win an election. I mean, some people make the point that if you look back through the history of Nigel Farage, he's been very successful creating parties and has created UKIP, and he created the Brexit Party, and he created the Reform Party. And every single time, that's why his brand is very well known, because he's been around for a while, and the Reform Party is the latest in the series of them. But there's also a series of quite well-known people who have helped him on all of his projects, who last for a certain amount of time, and then they part company. So sort of, given it's happened again, there is a question as to if something happens more than once and seems to happen regularly, is there a problem with Nigel Farage getting on with people and working with people? Can he cope with not being 100% of something? Sort of, because to run a government, you can't micromanage everything. You've got to work with people. I'm sure he realises that, but there is a track record.
Thank you very much, Christopher Howarth, author and former parliamentary candidate for the Conservative Party and researcher in the UK Parliament for the European Research Group.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your show.
And thank you for watching Riks Europe.